Need a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
All right, and a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Then also I'll ask for approval of the minutes for April 1.
Make a motion to approve the.
Both of those.
Okay,
You can
both
do
of
them
those.
In one motion.
Yeah, we can take a motion to approve both the minutes for May 1 and May 6.
Make that a motion.
All right, and a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign.
Is there any more agendas around? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, then under new business, Tanner.
Yeah, so thanks for having me here. Thought I'd give you a little bit, talk more about kind of the science behind these shallow lakes and how they operate and some of our management options. So as you guys are thinking about replacing the outlet structure, some things just kind of consider down the future, because if you want to do something down the future, you got to think about, you got to have the capability now. So, big part of this is, I guess, it'll get to the end of it, is kind of figuring out what your expectations after all of this going through is kind of a really important thing as we talk about what we actually want out of the lake. So kind of how I'll go, shallow lakes, fish management. So, and I'm approach this mainly from a fishery side. So there's some wildlife parts, more of the ecological parts. I'm gonna go mainly from a fisheries perspective, but we'll talk about kind of how these lakes function. I'll go through drawdowns, how they work, what we see, why they work. This is kind of our biggest tool that we have for these, and then kind of we do lake management plans for these, and then kind of that's where we kind of look at expectations for these lakes. But so kind of what is a shallow lake? So a shallow lake, our official definition is it's basically greater than 50 acres. Max depth is 15 feet. So that's the official, I think the legal definition. Within that, there's a lot of variation. So like you guys, I mean, think about Sibley County here, pretty much all your lakes are shallow lakes. We get into McLeod, most of our lakes are shallow lakes. Only once we get into Meeker County, really, are we starting to get into what would the definition of a deep lake. But I kind of consider there's kind of 3 different types of shallow lakes. So we got those real winter kill prone basins, those ones less than 5 feet. So Titlow is a great example of that. A lot of the little smaller ponds are kind of like that size. They're a little straightforward, kind of, and traditionally they would have winter killed, cleaned up, nice, easy to take care of. We've got those ones at like 10 to 15 feet. These are what we're kind of our more productive fisheries that we have. So like a Marion is right in this area, south of Hutchinson. This is where some of our best fisheries are. But then we got the ones we call the tweeners, that 5 to 10 foot. They're hard, so they don't winter kill enough essentially, but they winter kill too much. So yeah, so I mean, there's kind of different types of shallow lakes even with that. And you could even split this off into more, because I mean, you've got Silver Arlington, High Island, Titlow, all right here, and they're all very different. So ecologically, they kind of, the big things is they don't stratify. So we don't get warm water on top, cold, unoxygenated water on the bottom. And aquatic plants can grow throughout the whole basin, so basically everywhere, and that's part of that depth. Kind of show you how shallow lakes and deep lakes. So the big one is shallow lakes, that sunlight, that wind energy can reach the bottom, so we can get suspension of the sediments with the wind, but also we get that sunlight to hit the bottom so we can grow vegetation. Compare that to a deep lake, can't get all the way to the bottom. And because of that, our plants can only really grow in that little bit of depth along the shoreline. So kind of the two different, how these two different things operate. So when you talk about wind and nutrients, the big thing is on a shallow lake, the wind can pretty much mix up the whole water column all summer long. With that, you're getting the bottom sediments also getting mixed, so that's bringing up nutrients. When we have a good landscape intact, that's a good thing, because now we're getting productivity into the system so we can produce more fish. But when it gets kind of off the rails, it's also kind of a bad thing. So whereas on a deep lake, you got warm water in the top, dense cool water in the bottom, our nutrients tend to go to the bottom of the lake in that unoxygenated cold water, and they just sit there and they're basically locked away for basically all time. The other part of this is our inputs on shallow lakes. So we've got basically 3 different ways we get nutrients into a shallow lake. So we got the atmosphere. That's a relatively minor part of this. The big one is runoff from the landscape. So ditches, farm fields, septic tanks. I mean, it's point and non-point. That's a big one. And then the one that makes shallow lakes difficult is that internal loading of nutrients, where basically we've got nutrients in the sediment. They're somewhat hopefully locked away a little bit, but once we get the wind or the fish, they're bringing them right back up and available for algae essentially to utilize. So that's what makes some of this hard, is those, once they're in there, the nutrients basically just keep turning over and over and over, and until you can do something about it. So, and a big part about why we have that is those benthivorous fish. So essentially, the big one is carp. Carp are the ones where I kind of consider them they're a keystone species in a bad way, is they kind of a feedback loop. So we have a nice, like High Island is right now, good clear water, vegetation out there. We get the carp in there, so they're gonna start ripping up vegetation, rooting around in the mud, kicking up dirt. Well, now that's gonna get the water dirty. Plants can't grow, so we lose plants, and then with that we get more carp, and it's kind of a feedback loop where it makes it hard. And the important thing about shallow lakes to remember is, and I'll get back to this, I'm gonna skip ahead, is we've got basically 2 different ways a shallow lake can be. It can be even a turbid lake like this, basically what Titlow is right now, or we can have a nice clear water like basically High Island is right now. That's our 2 options. So, and they want to go one way or another. The hard part is that it takes a lot of energy it doesn't take a lot of energy to push them one way or another, but to push them back, you got to put way more energy, essentially, to go from turbid to clear. It takes a lot more energy to go that way than the reverse. So it's kind of a thing where basically you spend more money than you get back to flip it back one way or another. But the benthivorous fish, carp, essentially, like I was mentioning, they're kind of a feedback loop where they devour invertebrates, stir up those bottom sediments, uproot vegetation, and with that, it just creates better conditions for them, worse conditions for everything else, and this is where it gets hard. So this is why big resets with a drawdown, winter kill, rotenone is what we almost need. You can't really ease your way into this stuff. You kind of gotta go all the way. So, but with these turbid waters, kind of go. I mean, you guys know what this looks like: pea green soup, blue green algae. There's not much there for wildlife. So, I mean, we want pike, perch, walleye. They can't do very well on this type of stuff. Ducks, it's limited for ducks. This is what we want. So nice clear water, smartweed for ducks, all kinds of invertebrates for different game fish. So how this actually kind of works. So in a turbid water state, it's kind of two different ways. It works from the bottom up and the top down. So when we're got real dirty water, turbid water, we don't have a lot of big fish-eating predators out there. We don't have the big northern pike, the big walleyes. So because of that, we're gonna get more small fish. So we're gonna have a lot of, say maybe little crappies, fatheads, those type of fish. So because we have a ton of those, they're gonna be eating a lot of the little zooplankton, which is kind of that next step in the food chain. So because they're putting all this predatory pressure on those, we're gonna have less zooplankton, and because we have less of that, that's how we get more algae, because that zooplankton is eating the algae, and that's how we get the green water. And then it also works on the bottom up, where when we have carp, they're stirring up the sediments. Carp are they're just stirring up nutrients. Because of this, we get fewer aquatic plants, and with the fewer aquatic plants, we get less of other things, and with the more algae we also get fewer plants. So it's kind of it's working against you both ways when we have this set, and this is why it's so hard to push these lakes back towards the clear water states, because you're fighting the system. When we have a clear water state, it's kind of the opposite. So we've got say we have a bunch of big pike out there, and it's not even real big fish. It's like 20-inch pike are big enough to control things. So, or 12-inch bass. So it doesn't take these massive 40-inch fish. It's just bigger fish that can eat other fish. So, but if we have that, we get fewer small crappie, small bluegill, whatever it is, fatheads. Means more zooplankton, less algae. Without less algae, we get more aquatic plants. And at the same time, hopefully in this state, we're having less carp. They're not mucking up the bottom as much, stirring things up, and we can get more plants. So that's kind of how these lakes are operating. So this is how they operate. What's that mean for kind of managing these things? So, I mean, naturally, shallow lakes are really productive, and that's a great thing, because the amount of biomass they can put out is immense. Marion, 600 acres roughly. They pulled 250,000 pounds of carp out of that. I mean, you think about the pounds per acre. I mean, if you just think about a pure fish production, like I'd say a lot of biomass in a shallow lake. Nothing north of Brainerd, nothing is producing that kind of biomass per acre. So these things are really productive. It is because we have the nutrients constantly there. The big thing is that they winter kill often, and that was part of the natural part about it. So So with all this, what does that mean for actually managing these? So the best way to basically manage shallow lakes is it's the watershed. So that's how we long-term can really make an impact. So if that's perennial vegetation, impervious surface, rain gardens, nutrient conservation through agriculture BMPs, the big one, wetlands. I mean, essentially cleaning your water before it gets in the lake. That's the best way we can really fix these shallow lakes. So when we get to kind of more of the fishery side of what tools are in our toolbox, part of it is biomanipulation. So taking advantage of that bottom up and top down and maybe stocking a bunch of pike in there to try to reduce the abundance of perch or fatheads, something like that. That's one tool. Ceasing winter aeration, so encouraging winter kills, because what we found is a lot of times in these lakes, when we aerate, all we're doing we can't quite aerate enough to support the whole fish community. So what we do is we lose the desirable species, the walleyes, bass, pike, those, and all we're doing is we're keeping the bullheads and carp alive. So on situations like here down by New Ulm, we've been encouraging them to stop aerating for going on 10 years now, I think, in order to try to get more winter kill to hopefully knock out carp. And a big thing is big carp are actually really susceptible to winter kill. So that's when you see winter kills going on. Trying to think, a couple years ago, we saw a ton of big carp everywhere. Those guys were the first things to go, and actually we had some of our better game fish species were making it through. So, because these things, I mean, think about a 20, 30-pound carp, how much oxygen it takes to support that mass. Fish barriers, that's one way that we can do it. There's a lot of nuance to that. You gotta have the right situation to do that. Traditionally, we've tried reclamations, so rotenone. This tool has really been taken away from us now. It's simply just, it's too expensive now. So I'm trying to think, I want to say probably 7-8 years ago, on a 50-acre pond, it was something based like $50,000 to do. And the price since then has gone way up. And the problem is it only takes one bucket from a person to basically ruin your whole project. So, and we've seen people move fish. And then, like I mentioned, the stocking fish. So that's kind of another one of ours. Where we have really, in the Hutch office, region for the southern region of the DNR with fish and wildlife, where we've kind of got to is drawdowns. This is what we've really been doing. So why drawdowns? So if you think about how these shallow lakes kind of operated naturally hundreds, thousands of years ago, they would go up and down with the droughts. So think about the 30s, I'm guessing quite a few of these lakes were pretty dry, almost nothing left on them. We get into our current cycle, now we got rain all over. Best example I can think of really about this is those glacial lakes over in South Dakota, that Watertown, Brookings, Wabae area, where you see these big cycles of the droughts hit them hard. There's one lake, I talked to a guy that his grandpa had farmed this lake, and then he had duck hunted it. His kids were he had deer hunted it. His kids are duck hunting it now. his grandkids are ice fishing on it now. So these lakes have gone up and down a ton. Where we've lost is we've changed the hydrology of the landscape quite a bit. So we have more runoff coming into our lakes. Our high water levels, they're staying put. So I mean, we set our water levels with our outlets on these lakes. We say they want to be there. These lakes wanted to naturally vary, and because of that, we lose habitat. So this is a very common thing. Reservoirs have this problem. We start thinking about towards the south, where these reservoirs, think about, I mean, the big ones, like down in Alabama, Mississippi, they're built back in the 30s to 60s. They're starting to get to that 50 to 70 years old. They've maintained at high water levels. A lot of the original great fish habitat is gone because it's just been underwater for so long. There's nothing left. So what we're trying to take advantage is we're trying to mimic those historic drought cycles through these drawdowns, either a full or a partial. So what these drawdowns kind of do, the big part, and this is where you really get, I think this is probably one of the most important parts about this, is you really consolidate those substrates. So we get it, the hard pack, the nutrients essentially get bound up in the substrate, and we pull down that organic matter that gets, every time you get a wind blowing from the north, it's getting up into the water. Now that's all packed down. So, I mean, when they're doing some of the lake reclamations down in Nebraska and further south, this is really the part that helps them on that. And I mean, they're leaving things down for 3 years in order to get a good consolidation. But we're also exposing seed banks, so we can get a lot of these rushes and other emergent vegetation. They kind of need that change in water levels. So with these drawdowns, kind of gives them that natural variation that lets them germinate, lets them pop through. And then we get some really good production responses, both primary and secondary. So we get the good phytoplankton, there's different types of algae. There's some good ones, and essentially the phytoplankton is what our other species will eat. So we get a lot of that. They eat that. It goes up the food web, and we get more walleyes, hopefully. And then the biggest thing about drawdowns is it really resets the whole fish community. So we get hopefully a blank slate to work from, and when we have a blank slate, we can do a lot more. So kind of how they work, basically we draw them down, they go back to normal. The big part about this is how feasible a drawdown, and this is going to be the hard part for Titlow, is how well they're going to work really depends on your watershed. So Clear Gibbon, High Island, basically the watershed size to the lake size is about 6-to-1. So we had 6 acres, a watershed to 1 acre a lake in those situations, and that's right in that sweet spot. So the hard thing in Titlow is it's a big watershed. So we want to be able to keep the lake down, might be tough. So for talking about kind of a fisheries perspective, we really hadn't used a lot of drawdowns until the last probably 10 years. Wildlife's been doing this for a long time, and as we've seen lately, the best time to start talking about these drawdowns is what the situation you're in is. We've got a failing outlet structure now we can talk about putting something in that works for us and we can do something. So, and then there was I think you guys have talked about this, there was that legislation back in 2012 that really allowed for more drawdowns to happen. So, kind of just show you how a drawdown would work. So, there on the, I think my left side, you've got the basically dirty, turbid white lake. You can see the culverts. That's essentially the outlet structure. In this situation, you have a pelican or two out there, a bunch of carp. You basically build your new structure, let the gates up, pull the boards out. We get a nice vegetation response, and some of it is aquatic, some is more terrestrial, but it's all good. But pop the board, wait a year essentially or two, put the boards back in, and we flood all that vegetation. Now we get the response from the zooplankton, all that. We get the big invertebrates back for the fish, the ducks, all that. So that's kind of how drawdowns work and kind of why we have been looking at them. The next part here is kind of the goal setting. We use management plans to kind of help us our goal, and it's essentially is part of your expectations is what do you expect as you go through some of these processes to go through. So the biggest thing we've focused on when we're doing ours is that the water quality of the lake, the habitat of the lake, that's the primary goal of all our management objectives. We want to see this nice clear water. What we get for fish, that's secondary a little bit. So it's maybe hard for some people to understand because they see the lake, they think that's the fish, but it's really the water quality habitat is most important really. And I mean, there is a lot more people than just the fishermen. It's a whole community. You get a nice clean lake. It looks good. Everybody's using it. So as we're kind of doing these management plans, so this is an example of one. The biggest part is this long-range plan. So the first sentence is kind of the best. Fish management on state land lake will be considered a complementary management tool with the purpose of prolonging the positive effects of winter kill and reclamation. So any fish management we do is to further that water quality habitat. So as we're doing lake management plans, we want to tie the management to the use of drawdown. And then obviously collaborating has been a huge part. And just kind of show you guys what we've used as kind of some triggers for drawdowns and what we're looking. So on High Island, these are the water level triggers to basically trigger a drawdown. And basically anything, if we're better than these, we say, hey, we're in a good state. So if our water clarity is less than a foot, that would be one thing that would trigger a drawdown. And usually it takes multiple of these to trigger a drawdown. So it's not like we're gonna have a big flush of water one year, the water's kind of dirty for a year. It's not like we're gonna automatically go to a drawdown because we're not quite there. That's one thing that happened. So, but water clarity is a big one. So if we want to be better than a foot deep at least. Phosphorus and chlorophyll A, those are some MPCA kind of standards that they're looking for. A big one is submerged aquatic plant coverage. We like to see half the lake covered in vegetation. And then the presence of common carp, we want them out of there. So if we start seeing common carp, we get some dirty water, our vegetation's going away, that's when we'll start looking at a drawdown. So I kind of sum a lot of this up is as you're thinking about replacing your structure, think about what do you want long term out of this. So do we want fish? or are ducks more important? Do we just want a clear lake? Do we just want something that's simple to deal with, that we don't have to have the maintenance long-term? So I was talking to Josh Kavanaugh for wildlife out of Nicollet, and one idea he had is these rock arch rapids. So I don't know if you guys have talked about this as a potential option at all. And essentially, it's thinking about your kind of structure you got around. You're not too far actually from this right now. Essentially, is and if you've been in Hutchinson, you've seen these. Is basically a series of arches that just steadily go down and down, and you maintain your water level, but essentially it's just a bunch of rock that there's no maintenance left on this. So, but the problem is you lose control for management wise of what you want to do, but it's something that's simple. So, I mean, in other places, so like in Hutchinson, they did this because the dam was failing. It wasn't serving its purpose anymore. When we've got those low head dams are very dangerous for boaters. And the big thing is that these rock art rapids do promote a lot of the good effects for the overall ecology of a river stream, where we get fish passage, we're moving sediment, all that. So this was one idea that kind of Josh Kavanaugh from Wildlife kind of brought up to me, and something for you guys to consider. So as you work through this, but yeah, so expectations is kind of the biggest thing, and realistically, what can we expect out of anything we do? So yeah, you guys got any questions or?
If you do the drawdown, can you go and remove some of the muck?
So that's where you're getting into the dredging, and essentially it's extremely expensive to do it, and it's limited in its usefulness. Essentially, you're always going to have that, unless you greatly change a watershed, you're always going to have that coming back in. So there's a few places it's done. Sleepy Eye Lake, that one actually worked well, and it's a very small watershed, and they were actually able to get almost down to bedrock on that one. So because the problem is you just keep digging and digging and digging, and you don't know when to end. And then the bigger part is it's extremely expensive. So
I was thinking once it's dried out, and you go take some of that, no?
no, because a lot of times when they dredge, they actually like the water in there, because they basically pump it out. So they suck it up and pump it out, and that's how it works. And yeah, I know Redwood did it recently. I want to say it was $8 to $10 million for 100 acre. So yeah, and I mean we really DNR, we really kind of want to stay away from it because of it's not really a magic bullet. It's very limited in its usefulness. So you're better off. You got a shallow lake, you're better off letting it kind of work naturally.
So another question, how much is that, if you have 3 feet of muck, what does that compact over time? You know, that ratio is?
I would say if you got 3 feet, I'm not for sure, but maybe you go to 2.5, maybe. If it really depends on kind of because all muck is different. So if you've got the real super fluff stuff, like I've been down in a cabin, Missouri, it's super fluffy, and I could see that stuff cut in half. But some of it is more like that sand stuff. Like Clear Gibbon's got a lot of sand, hard stuff to it, so it's not really going to compact down. It's more just going to harden up.
So I live on the lake, I've walked out with the waders, and at the end, it's hard it's gravel for like 20 feet, and then it starts getting mucky, and I get farther out, and I can kick through.
Yep.
When it's up to probably about halfway up my leg yet, is that soft and fluffy?
Yeah. So yeah, that stuff should compact down pretty well. So, but it's hard because there's so many little variations of it that come through it. So, and really, when we do the drawdowns, you're really limited on your structure, on how much you can draw down. A lot of times, like those deeper pockets, you can't get that stuff exposed. It's that shoreline that you have already good. So.
I have traps on my dock, and right now the fatheads, there's a lot of them,
Yeah.
and, little crappies, little sunfish.
Okay, I forgot to mention, we did go out there and shock it a couple weeks ago, just to
Yep.
see what's out there, so, we saw, the buffalo were spawning, there was a couple different year classes of them. It was actually 10-1, probably buffalo. We'd saw, yeah, so a lot more buffalo than carp out there, at least what we saw when we did it. We saw a couple perch. We didn't see any crappie, but I mean we didn't shock a ton of the shoreline just because it's hard to get around out there, because I think we saw 1.5 foot most of where we went right now, and that was a couple weeks ago. So I know it probably came up a little bit since then, but it was just hard to get around. So that's what's there right now. The hard part of anything we're gonna do here is keeping stuff out of it. So being as flat as Sibley County is, the water comes around things, and I know we've seen gar out there, so they're moving up the ditches. Yeah, it's hard to keep things out in this part of the world. So that's as you kind of think about what you want to do, that's one thing to consider, and maybe that's why you want to go to a rock arch. Is we can't stop it, so maybe we just do something that's easy, low maintenance for us. But yeah.
It's been my experience on Titlow is I don't think a drawdown would work, because the eastern end of the lake, where the outlet is shallower than the western end of the lake.
Yeah.
So it's going to draw down, and you're going to still have half the lake full of water.
Yeah.
Something like you got on Clear Lake at Gibbon.
Yeah.
That hasn't drawn down the way it was
So
wished it should have went.
Clear Gibbon, we got really lucky that because there's south of the outlet, there's that bar that goes across, and where we could actually get the lake down far enough, and we had to dig a channel to get it down even further. It was just at the right elevation to get right over top of that, and because we don't have to pull all the water out. We just basically, essentially what we're doing is we're trying to get enough water out that there's just nothing. When we get our winter, it's gonna almost freeze 2/3 of the way through, and there's nothing left for the fish, and they're gonna die no matter what. That's really what we're hoping for. So if we can get big chunks of shoreline exposed, that's nice. Yeah, if we can get, I think High Island went way down. Granted, you lost the dam also, that helped too. But Titlow it's a tough one for a drawdown, and that's why I'm presenting what we could do. I don't know if it works. Now, the watershed ratio part is probably the thing that's really limiting. Is I don't know if we can keep it down. And Al, I know he's talked to you. He's the one that can actually do the math, and we've got the ratio, but then he can actually do the actual hydrology and how things work, and if it might just fill up too fast. If we get a 2-inch rain, it might fill right back up too fast, and you can't keep it down. So that's another thing to kind of think about. But yeah, Titlow, especially if the where the outlet is, it's really shallow, and then you go way deep. Yeah, you may not be actually gaining anything there.
I got another question for you. On that break in the, there's an old dike that was built probably 100 years ago, and that's what washed out.
Yep.
There's a hole in there, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's.
I've heard, I haven't seen it.
It's about 6 feet across and a couple of feet deep.
Yep,
It's on private GPL ground.
yep.
Do we need a permit to go in and plug that? It's on private property.
I'm probably not the person to ask Al Gleisner, the area hydro. He would be the one. I honestly don't know. I would assume probably, because anytime you do anything with, because you're presumably gonna have to go below the ordinary high water mark, and basically anytime you do that, usually you need a permit.
Yeah, but, you know, we're, basically what it's an existing dike that was in there that broke through,
Yeah,
and I can't see why
yeah.
just fixing it needs to go through a whole lot of
Yeah,
paperwork.
and I was the one to talk to about it, and if it's something simple, I mean, he'll work with you, and I mean, the process is, I don't know if the process is super rigorous. I mean, it all depends on what you're doing on there. So, yeah, Al's the one that would really be able to answer kind of a permit question like that. So I'm not sure on how that would work.
Who would we have to talk to?
That Al Gleisner, he's the area hydrologist for the area, for down here.
Up
So,
at Hutch?
yeah, he's up in Hutch,
He'll
but
be
yeah.
here tomorrow night. He's gonna be here tomorrow night.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so he's really the one that would deal with, he does all the permits on anything and that type stuff.
Okay.
So as a fishery, you recommend to try to draw the lake down to get some vegetation in there, and
I mean, yeah, I mean,
if it's possible, and even if it's not the whole lake, it's just a start.
yeah, I mean, if it start, like, a drawdown, so I mean, in this instance, a drawdown could be successful or not successful depending on how you,
Don't know
if you
don't
say,
try.
hey, we want walleyes like crazy and we want, get all this, it's probably not gonna work. But, you know, if we say, hey, we hope to get some just variation and, from the droughts, hopefully we hit the drought year perfect. And, you know, we just wanna get some vegetation, we just wanna clear the lake up a little bit. That's probably, then you've got realistic expectations of what you might get out there. You say, hey, maybe we hope we can get a little bit, maybe we can get some crappies out there that are getting to some size on something, or we can get some perch. So like, I mean, Titlow it could have some good perch in it. We're trying to figure out some of these lakes like this to actually work on perch. So I know, it seems like there's fewer now. I know last time I was out here, it's been a while since I've been out here. We actually did see quite a few perch 6-7 years ago when we came out here, but yeah. So it is really about just your expectations and
Back in the 90s, I believe, there was a phenomenon that year or whatever. They had, remember that? They had 13, 14-inch perch.
Yeah.
Everybody was out
Yeah,
there.
one year it was full of big perch.
And then one year, everybody was spearing out there. And I speared a lot of northerns, and the smallest one was 28 inches. They were all 30 and above. You had to measure them because by law, you can only have
Yep.
one over 30, so.
yeah, and that's what these shallow lakes are great at, is they can kind of come along, do nothing for a long time, and all of a sudden they put out immense fishing. So I mean,
It was nuts.
yeah, so Thompson Lake over by Cosmos had a similar situation where the perch went nuts for a couple years. Trying to think of other situations. I know when we are rearing ponds, when we were stocking the walleyes, we would have it where the pond would hit. We'd pull out our fingerlings that we needed for production, but then we'd leave some in there, and the fishing 2 years later can be absolutely insane. Where, I mean, we've had Thompson, I think, someone said like 50 to 60 trucks in the parking lot right away. So I mean, it can go these places can go great. I mean, it's kind of
Whatever happened to the walleyes that they stocked in there 5, 6 years ago?
they never took hold really. So I'm guessing, there was probably, I know there was, when I shocked it, I think we stocked it, and then we went, and I was trying to get something for a fair or some kind of project, something, and so we came down, and I know we saw some perch and gar, and if we're seeing that, it's probably a good chance that those fry just never took, because they need a blank slate, essentially. In a shallow lake like this, they really do need those blank slates.
You did some shocking, you said. What size were the carp and the buffalo?
So buffalo they were smaller. I would say that 5 to 7, 8 pound range, it seemed like. And then there was another group of 10 to 12 inchers, I think. The carp, probably 5 to 10 pounds. But there was way more buffalo than carp, and that was kind of surprising to us.
Yeah,
Usually-
last time I was in there, I'd make a seine haul and I'd catch mostly carp.
Yep.
And the next time I'd make a seine haul and they'd be mostly buffalo.
Yeah. So, I mean, this could be one that kind of just flips back and forth between the carp and buffalo. I mean, we really don't know why situations like that happen. So, I mean, we've had lakes where carp are the dominant species like that, and then all of a sudden they haven't seen buffalo for 50 years, and all of a sudden they pop up. So, I mean, I think it was Marion was that way, where they pulled out that 250,000 pounds of carp, and then they popped a couple buffalo that we've never seen before. So.
Did, what was I gonna say now? On Marion, you know, they drained that thing down in 1980.
Mhm.
And it got pretty low because they had to siphon it out. It wouldn't draw down by itself, so they
Yep.
siphoned the water out. And it wasn't 5 years later, the area manager told me, you better come in here and start taking some bullheads and carp out. So they, you know, you never get a 100% kill on that wild.
And that's the thing is, so, I mean, they pull it down if they had and that's a risk sometimes with these drawdowns is, and we actually got lucky when we did Clear Given, you think about 2 years ago, if we would have done a drawdown out there, we had such a mild winter with nothing, very possibly we could have had a blank on that one and got no winter kill, just because, I mean, you get a winter like that, even in 2 feet of water, those fish can still survive. So if they get the wrong winter, when they have it down, yeah, that happens. And
The way these winters have been, I don't think we're gonna have much winter kill anymore.
Yeah. And that's a new reality. It's a new reality we're facing, and that's why we're trying to do these these drawdowns more. I'll just say the positive side is some other lakes where it's a positive because now we can produce fisheries where we couldn't.
They had a bad winter kill on Titlow here. That was probably after the perch business. It was probably, I was thinking the 80s. And there was dead fish all along shore. I think I counted 12 snapping turtles that were dead. I put some nets in there, and all the fish that were alive in the nets were the same ones that were dead on shore.
Yeah.
So I mean, as shallow a lake as Titlow is, you get a bad, Titlow is gonna be half bottom, or a half froze to the bottom and on half that lake.
Yeah, and it's amazing, these shallow lakes, it's amazing that, cause we'll go out there and do oxygen testing on these lakes. We'll have zeros on our meters. We smell the sulfur, rotten egg smell coming out, like, this had to have killed, and then come right back, and there's a refuge somewhere that supported fish. I mean, Thompson, that was one where we had the zeros, had the sulfur smell, and we went out the next fall, and I think we pulled 2,000 pounds of adult walleyes out of there. So it's amazing what these fish can kind of survive through.
Now, on the dam, they want to put a dam in there. Do we go through that hydrologist to get the permits for that too, or?
Yeah, he would be the main DNR person for that, and I don't
Okay.
know all what you have to go through for a dam. I know it's quite extensive on that stuff, so.
Tanner, you had mentioned, lake management plans.
Yep.
So in order to do a drawdown, do you have to have a lake management plan in place?
I think you do. But I don't think that the DNR necessarily has to be the one that has to write it.
Who typically writes a lake management?
Usually it is us.
Is it DNR?
Yeah. So usually it is us, and I mean, it depends on the situation. We're probably not gonna take the lead on it,
Right.
but we can at least assist, and something like that is probably easy enough where.
So in developing those lake management plans, is it a group like this that is very involved in the lake that works together with the DNR to develop that plan, or what do these plans look like? Is it?
So it really depends on the lake. So most of our lakes that we do, there's kind of tiers to it. So most of the lakes that we do, I'm gonna do a survey right now. Come December, I'm gonna just look at our past plans, look at our surveys, kind of decide the management I wanna do. We'll send it out to comment for people in February, March, kind of usually we're not getting anything back because they're pretty simple. And then they're basically adopted. As we kind of get more high-profile fisheries, more involved, we do start to get essentially input groups, committees. We'll talk about things we want to see. Carrie, do you want to talk about how High Island, how did Scott work with you guys on that one?
Well, the association and the Friends of High Island worked with Scott.
Yeah.
And kind of followed other lakes.
Yep.
And got it adopted and had the public hearing.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that's how, because I had just started when you guys were going right through the middle of that process. So yeah, it's working together. So I mean, it can be as informal as I meet with a sportsman's group and we just talk about what we're gonna do, to maybe more of this, to hey, the DNR is actually creating an input group like the large lakes do, where we're at, this is how we're getting our input. So there's kind of this a scale of what works for people. So that you guys have this committee, that makes it really easy because you already have the established group of the stakeholders.
Another question, or kind of a follow-up, but you talked a little bit about the watershed area for Titlow, and that's been a discussion of the group and a concern about a drawdown.
Mhm.
When you've got that large area contributing water, like you said, a 2-inch rain, the lake may jump up a
Yep.
couple of feet. You said that the hydrologist could maybe provide some guidance as to whether it's even possible.
Yeah.
Is that something we can take a look at now already so that we know, so we don't go down the path of looking at a drawdown and then all of a sudden we discover, look, it's not even a possibility from a hydraulic standpoint.
Yeah.
To do a drawdown based on what the hydrologist math says, because then we should probably look at that now already so we don't go all the way down that path.
Yeah, and that's where you got a meeting with Al tomorrow. That's probably the best question is, can you provide us this math already? So I think he should be able to do it. I know we've talked about, I asked him if he had done it yet, and he said not quite yet. But yeah, he's the one, and yeah, that is really the first thing is this a good candidate lake, and do the math. I mean, if you get past the first couple stages of, okay, these are like, it's shallow enough and the watershed might be right, and then, okay, let's actually do the math, and yeah, I think it's worth, at least doing the math and seeing, and that'll, as you start talking about what kind of structure you might want, that's what, okay, we can't, there's no reason to do a drawdown maybe here. Maybe we just want to save our money and do a normal fixed crest and call it good.
When you build a drawdown with gates or with stop logs, a drawdown structure with gates or stop logs, once you do the drawdown and complete that, you reestablish the dam to the original elevation, right? There's no in between.
Yeah.
There's no adjusting. You don't go down there and open the gates because you got a big rainfall coming or something
Nope.
like that. Once the drawdown is done, you reestablish the water elevation, and that's it.
Yep, so essentially, you got it built, you pull the logs out let as much water as out, and then, yeah, you basically say March 1 or whatever, put the logs into the max, and we are now at our ordinary high water mark, and it sticks, and there's nothing we can do about it now. So, I mean, we get the rains, they carry us out, they come. So
even though it's considered adjustable,
yeah,
it's only for the drawdown.
yeah, and I mean it's not like you think about kind of some of the big reservoirs on the Missouri where we can mess around and play with flows. Like with Minnesota on this is basically you go through the process to get the drawdown initiated, and it's a pretty rigorous process that you got to do, and it's a very structured, and there's no deviating at all from it. And basically a drawdown is you flip the switch, it goes on for 2 years, and you flip it off, and then you have to go back through your process a little bit to redo the next one. Is how it kind of works. Yeah.
And the concern would be with the size of watershed that Tidwell has, if you had a really wet 2 years, you might never get that lake pulled down because there's so much water that keeps coming in.
Yeah, and that's the hard part about some of this stuff is it's timing and luck. Yeah. Is if we get lucky and we get the drought cycle, great. If we got a couple years ago when everything was going crazy, or last year when everything was going crazy, man, that sucks.
And the stone arch that you mentioned at the end, that's a type of dam structure that a drawdown's not possible.
Yep, drawdown's not possible, but I think it seems like it gives you maybe a little, I don't want to say more flexibility, but it's the maintenance.
Right.
We're putting rock in. It looks really nice. I think everybody kind of loves the way they look, but it's no maintenance. I mean, you put it in and you're done. So, and I really don't know what kind of lifespan they have, but I can't see, other than some cataclysmic big event that would happen, I can't see a reason why anything would change. I mean, maybe you got to fix a boulder or two here and there, but yeah.
Well, just the arch configuration has to help with high flows too, because you got more area for the water to
Yeah.
get across over that dam versus something that's more constricted.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're a little spinnier on the front end, but your back end, I think it's less. So you don't have to worry about, hey, 50 years, we're going to have to maybe go through this whole process again because it blew out. Nope, it's there. So.
Why did they decide to put the type of dam in at Hutch that they did?
I mean, the big part of it was fish passage. We want fish moving up and down the river.
I think something like that would work great on Tittle.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if the drawdown.
By putting a curvature dam in there, you extend the length of the dam when maybe you only got like, what we were talking, 75 feet, the old dam is. You put a curvature dam in there, you're gonna up that 75 feet to maybe 100 feet.
Yeah.
And still only go through that.
Yeah, I mean, if you figure out, hey, drawdowns aren't gonna work here, we don't think it's something we wanna chase. Yeah, I mean, something like that. I mean, we're really encouraging, and a big part of it, so the big part about the rock arch is, like, the downside is we're moving fish. So we're moving carp, we're moving buffalo. But you know what, if you say, you know what, if we're gonna build a normal outlet structure, kind of like a High Island, kind of like Clear Gibbon, if you say, hey, we can't keep anything out of here anyways, maybe it's still worth it. Like, let's let the fish move, maybe we get something that good comes through. And I mean, a lot of times kids, they don't care. If they catch a gar, they're happy. They catch carp, they're happy too. So, yeah. So you gotta you figure out your options a lot, is kind of a lot of it. So, but yeah.
Trouble with Titlow, you can't really compare it to High Island or Clear Lake at Gibbon because the watershed for Titlow is so much more than those other lakes.
Yeah, and that's what makes it hard here, is that watershed ratio size. So, and it seems like lately, if it rains, it hits this watershed every single time, and it's a lot of water too. It's not, everybody else gets an inch, you get 4 inches, is what it feels like.
Well, we got 3 inches last week, and my dock went under again, we got about 1.5 feet, 2 feet of water rise
Yeah, and that's
from that.
the hard, I mean, that's the hard part. So, I mean, we've got
But
to,
if we take the dam out, it's gonna be able to go down another 8 feet. It's gonna, you got that, the water's gonna leave that much faster rather than just on the top of the rocks.
yeah,
You know, and they just lowered, I think when they put that new road in, it seems like the bottom of is down a couple feet lower than the old bridge structure, so you actually could lower it even that much more,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The culverts are higher up, they weren't as deep.
Yeah, I mean, and a hard part about some of the stuff is, and that's what I didn't kind of go through on the drawdown part, is like, you can't negatively affect anything downstream. So you may have to keep your ordinary high water mark just to keep everything else from downstream for flooding. So I know.
Maybe they gotta look at, redirecting the ditch system and run some of that into New Auburn. That would maybe,
We're higher than you, so.
that would maybe work.
Maybe we can just dig them and bypass the lake, right into the ditch.
It took us 3 years, the first original drawdown in 2010. But again, Mother Nature has a big part to play in it.
Yep. Yeah.
What
and-
is the land, is it 30-1, I think you bring up a couple meetings ago, the acreage to the
Yeah, 40 to 1.
40-1?
Yeah.
38 to 1.
That's a lot.
Not higher than,
Yeah, that's a lot, and that's why it's kind of the downside of this is we were thinking about is like, yeah, there's a lot of watershed out there. We're not sure it would work even, but
it's amazing how many, you go to the bridge at the right water temperature, there's thousands of carp waiting to get up because they can't get up the rocks.
yep,
And garfish, you can just see they're sitting there waiting to go, and
yeah. So
the
yeah,
walleyes run, all the fish do, every kind of fish
Yeah.
run up that, all the way from the river,
yeah. So how often does it actually backflow up over?
depends on the water.
Does it? But at least it happens at least regularly.
It never backflows into Titlow.
No.
Not backflow, but it gets high enough where it's,
Okay, so they at least get into
Yeah.
So it doesn't backflow, but at least they can get in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So and that's the thing is, as you start talking about structure is, if we can build the structure, but if we can't get the fish out, yeah.
still be nice to clear up the water somehow. to make-
Well, yeah. And that's maybe if you go to a rock arch with, I think, there may be like I thought, and I saw something on this where there was actually a low flow spillway or something, where maybe they can get a little lower during maybe certain droughts or something that, yeah, I mean, that's essentially does a drawdown for you and you start working naturally maybe. So, cause that's the thing is, we're gonna get these high water years, but then the next year's probably gonna be a drought. So,
Would you explain what you said at Clear Lake and Gibbon? You used a channeling process to,
yeah, so, they dug, I wanna say 12 inches down, cause there was basically like a little sandbar right in front of the outlet where, there's still quite a bit of water beyond it, that they could get out, so they had an excavator come in, dig about a 12-inch deep channel, I think, through there, and some of it cut itself naturally, just to pull another 6-8 inches off, I think, is what it did.
They also had tractor pump water out of there too, right?
No, I don't think we had no, we looked at maybe pumping some water out, and then we did the math, and it was really expensive to try. And I mean, the other part was downstream, putting that water downstream was just too much. So,
So here in Titlow, if we have more depth on the west end, you could possibly channel some of it out.
I would say probably not in that situation, just knowing the lake. Just the nice thing about where Clear Gibbon was, it was maybe 20, 30 yards worth. That's it. That's all it was. So it's not like, I mean, the excavator essentially could reach it from almost the bank to get through there. But if you start talking about a long chunk, they wouldn't permit that essentially. Yeah.
We were authorized 750 feet on our second drawdown into High Island.
To do a channel.
Yeah, yeah, I forgot that you got that one, and that was a little longer, but you were still able to reach that from the banks, were you?
Nope.
No, you had to actually get in?
Get it on ice.
Yeah, okay, on the ice, yeah.
And then after we got the drawdown partially done, then we went out there one summer, on a dry summer, I don't remember what year it was,
Yep.
but then re-cleaned it out again.
Yeah. So,
But it's all, like I say, it's all Mother Nature. Yeah, so the west end is deeper. You'd be surprised how much will naturally wash its own way out. You've seen that on High Island too.
Yeah.
It's muck,
That's what I was gonna say, that if they have the dam deep, when it does have that big rain come in, it's gonna wear like the Grand Canyon out of there,
yep,
cause the water's gonna,
yeah, that water will cut hard on stuff, so,
But you always gotta remember, where's that gonna go? Now, you got the culverts lower. That's why I've been telling Watershed for years and years, you need sediment ponds. Collect that sediment before it gets to High Island or Titlow or whatever lake you're working on. Sediment ponds, build them, when you're cleaning your ditches, build a sediment pond. And they tell me, well, they fill up so fast. Yeah? Well, that's just because you're concentrating in one area. Look at the island on the west end of Titlow because of all that sediment. And it's gonna be less now because them ditches are buffer strips and rocked, on corners and stuff. And they're how many years old, so they're established, you aren't gonna get it like the year they originally dug it where, no vegetation to hold the silt down.
So if our expectation is to clear up the water, we're probably gonna have to draw it down. How else would you clear the water if you don't change nothing?
yeah, it would probably be a drawdown with the expectation it may not work. That's kind of what we may get a bad year, and it may not work. Yeah, so and it's gonna come down to what's the cost. So what's a variable crest one? What's the fixed crest structure? What's the rock arch? And decide which one do we wanna go with? Do we want the flexibility to at least try? So I know the big one is, I mean, you guys the city is probably gonna have to want to lead the process for a drawdown. So you'd have to get the 75% of landowners. So, which is it's gonna be work, because I think you said 80 people, getting 60% to agree, or 60 people to agree, and to actually sign on. That's a tough thing. So,
We had to have 100%, took us 3 years.
yeah,
I think it can be done though, just cause the lake is so dirty.
yeah, and that's the thing, if you get the community involved and they see what you're trying, and you tell them, hey, be honest, like, hey, we're gonna try, maybe it works, maybe it don't, but you've seen what happens for the last how many years, what it's been, so,
Well, drawdown on Titlow might work if it didn't have the watershed coming in.
yeah,
With that watershed coming in, almost 40,000 acres of watershed dumping into Titlow, I think a drawdown is a waste of time and money.
yeah. And you gotta decide,
But then why would we do anything at all? The dam's holding back stuff now. If we can't clean the water up, why even waste the money of building a dam? Cause there's already one there. That's the whole point, is to try try to make the lake better.
I think the best way, if you wanna get the mud out of there, is get a dredge in.
It's unaffordable though.
Yeah, I'd say a dredge, especially on the size of Titlow, it's not gonna happen essentially. So, I mean, the lakes, essentially the legislature has to bond you the dollars to do it, and that's how it's worked. So, I know the DNR would probably be against it. We're against dredging, just as a rule, as a whole. If it happens, it happens. We'll go along with it, but just because it is, I mean, the size of Titlow, I don't even want to know how many $1 million it would cost.
And time.
And you gotta have the infrastructure around the lake to do it, so you gotta have someone to take the sediments, and people are, it used to be easy to convince some farmers to take it. It's getting tougher, because they've found that they kinda gotta follow the fields for a year or two, just because there's so many nutrients in there. So, I mean, a dredge essentially is a non-starter, really.
Is somebody doing the elevation on Gaylord right now? Did they settle it, gauge reader? I'm just wondering if it's at normal, ordinary high water, if it's where it's at.
That's Dale, isn't it? Is that Dale?
Yeah, Dale Johnson is. What are you asking?
Titlow was at what, 985 or something? I'm just wondering, where is it at right now?
Yeah.
High Island, we're about 6 inches higher than the stop walls are after this rain. I was wondering where it is. Is the dam washed out enough that you aren't even up to your capacity? Or is it lower than?
Well, my dock is exposed now, and, you know, in the summertime, it's usually about 6, 8 inches below it.
But you don't know where the number is.
No, I don't. I should put something in over it.
I would say it's lower. It's gotta be lower.
Yeah, and that's a good thing is, what is your, essentially your high water mark right now with a more normal? Are you where you're supposed to be?
Correct.
You've talked about using surveys to do a water management plan, community involvement. Is that what you mean by that, or survey people?
So it kind of, so our surveys, we call them surveys, essentially when we go out and set nets or, that's what our surveys actually are.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You know, like us, we put in a fish screen, okay, so it's a 2-inch screen, so there's a lot of fish that can get through there yet.
Yep.
You know, so, like we were saying earlier, you're gonna have carp, that's just common in Minnesota, but it's how much biomass of carp you have that's gonna deteriorate, you know? I mean, I look at how many carp I saw this spring on the edges spawning, but yet our water clarity is just, doesn't get any better. You know, how long is that gonna last, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I talked about you're in your turbid water state and, or a clear water state, and I guess either way, is you gotta go way past kind of what you expect would be the flipping spot to get it there. So we're in a clear water state like High Island, we can take some of those carp, and as long as we don't let them push too far, and then we might be able to work with it. But the other thing with High Island is hopefully we can keep the number down, but just let them get big. And that's what we see in some lakes, more like Meeker County, where we have lower numbers of carp in our lake, but they're all really big. So our biomass is tied up in just a few fish, and that's how we can keep clear water in some of it. So essentially you're gonna get a few big carp or a lot of little carp. It's gonna be the same biomass maybe, but when we have the more numbers, that's where our problems come in. So,
Harder to kill later.
yeah. Then that's the thing is, when we got the little ones, they can hold on during a bad year. Those big ones, you get the right year, they can wipe them out. Cause, I mean, a 20-pound carp takes a lot of oxygen.
Well, I think what a lot of people don't understand is on a Titlow, these shallow lakes, if you clear that water up, that's gonna be solid weeds.
And that is part of this.
There'll be no boating, there'll be no swimming. It'll be solid weeds if that water was clear.
And that is part of this child lake management, is that the vegetation is gonna come. It comes in spots. I mean, you are allowed to do some removal in some spots, so you could clear a swim beach considerably, or for your dock. But yeah, I mean, you might, I mean, as shallow as Titlow is, you probably will have a pretty strong, response. So, I mean, Shakatan, I wanna say out towards Wyndham, they've dealt with this quite a bit, where they did some, I don't think they even did a drawdown, I think it just kinda naturally like flipped on them, and all of a sudden, it's 100% vegetation everywhere. And it's been something dealing with, it's how much are we gonna let them remove or spray, whatever, so that is something that you consider.
All right, well, thank you, Tanner.
I will let you guys get back to it. Thank you for letting me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, I think given the time situation, I think we, on old business, we will put that onto the next month's agenda. And everybody in favor of that, of moving that stuff? It's already 7 o'clock.
Yeah, we were gonna also ask if we could start meeting here versus the church,
Right, yep.
seeing if you guys would be open to that.
Well, I like these chairs.
I got one other thing I should probably inform you about. Our last GPL meeting, somebody brought up, we were talking about the overflow problem, and somebody had mentioned, it wasn't me, but that maybe the GPL should fix that overflow problem. So we put it to a vote, and we decided that the GPL will fix that overflow problem. Without any public money, we'll take care of it. But if the city or the state or the DNR wants to do it themselves, we'll furnish the access to it, but then we're done. So you either get it done for nothing, or you're gonna pay a bunch of money for somebody to do it. It's up to I don't know if it's up to this group or if it's up to the city or who, I don't know.
Well, that would be good information to share tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, we're having a work session meeting. The council is, city council. And Al Gleisner, who Tanner had mentioned, is gonna be at the meeting. He's bringing along another representative, I forgot his name offhand. But we're basically gonna talk about the dam and the responsibilities of the city, the GPL, and the DNR. And then we'll talk about this washout area as well, and who's ultimately responsible for that. And we believe it, or they've basically said the landowner is responsible. But also they bring in the city, we're trying to replace a dam. If we don't replace or fix the washout area, that we might, we're just kicking it down the road here. We're not gonna solve our
I'm sure he's
issue.
gonna require a permit no matter what you do, whether
Right,
it's private
yeah.
or
Right.
public.
Yeah, I think so too.
Doesn't even make sense, you gotta get a permit to fix something that, I think if I was a landowner, I'd just go do it, ask for forgiveness if I'm doing something wrong.
Well, that's the way we feel, but if we have to get a permit, fine, we'll get it. But I don't think we should need one, as long as it's on private property.
And you bring it back up
And
to
it's,
what it was.
it's not new construction, it's repairing an old dike.
Talk to your watershed. Who's on the watershed here? They don't? Oh, really? Okay. Huh. 'Cause we
So,
dealt a lot with.
I guess I
private.
just wanted to mention
Well,
that, so
you
you
asked that Gleisner.
guys know you're invited, of course, come to the,
I
it'll be a
asked
good
that
discussion, I
I
think.
would
Dude
love to
that's
be,
coming
I
tomorrow night,
Go
that
to
Al
pick the money
Gleisner.
up the airport.
Yeah.
Come in 2 weeks.
5:30.
John
It's just a
Harbaugh
work
should be there
session,
tomorrow.
it'll be over before 6:30, because we have our regular meeting following, so we have to be done before 6:30. So Larry, tomorrow night, if you can make it, 5:30 is the meeting right here, council, and it'll be over before 6:30. So roughly an hour.
Should
So
be,
We're gonna be trying to
unless
stay
there's
on
something I
task.
don't know about.
So I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
And then as Steve said, we'll plan on meeting here for our regular monthly meetings.
Yeah, so just plan on that in the future, right here.
Okay?
Make a motion to adjourn? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Make
All
a
right.
motion to adjourn?
And a second,
Second,
all in favor, say aye.
well, maybe I should have asked this before that, but is there anything new on that grant application, or?
No, I don't have anything new to share tonight.
And I did bring you a copy of our lake plan, right?